Thanksgiving had always been a weird holiday in my family. Not terrible, just awkward. Like, we pretend we're all one big happy family even though we barely tolerate each other awkward. So when my mom called me out of the blue that November and said, "Hey, you need to come home this year. It's important," I already had a knot forming in my stomach. What's so important? I asked, half distracted, clicking through work emails. There was a pause. Then she said, "Your brother's bringing someone." Now, my brother, Drew, is a character. Big talker, bigger drinker, and somehow always landing on his feet no matter how bad he screws things up. I hadn't seen him in over a year, not since he borrowed my car and returned it 2 days later with a smashed bumper and a suspiciously empty gas tank. Someone? I repeated. His fiancée, Mom said, voice tightening like she was trying to force cheerfulness through gritted teeth. They're engaged. Cue jaw drop. Last I heard, Drew was single and bouncing between jobs like a drunk rabbit. When did that happen? Last month, she said quickly. They're getting married in January. January? Who the hell plans a wedding in 2 months? You have to come, Mom said again. No excuses. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Booked the flight, rented a car, and even splurged on a halfway decent hotel because no way was I staying at my parents' house with Drew and whoever the hell he was marrying. When I pulled up to the old family house, everything looked the same, right down to the fake turkey wreath on the front door. But the second I stepped inside, I felt it. The tension. Thick and heavy, like stepping into a sauna of barely concealed resentment. You're here. Mom said, rushing over to hug me like she hadn't seen me in a decade. And there was Drew, standing by the fireplace, an arm wrapped casually around a woman I'd never seen before. She was stunning. Like should be on a magazine cover stunning. Long dark hair, big green eyes, perfect skin. Way out of Drew's league. "Hey, bro," he said, flashing his usual shit-eating grin. "Hey," I said, studying the woman. "And you must be Vanessa," she said, offering her hand. Her smile was tight, polite. Something about it seemed off. Like it was pasted on. We shook hands, and I noticed the ring. Massive diamond. Practically blinding. Definitely not Drew's style. Dinner was set for 5 o'clock. It was 2 o'clock. 3 hours to kill, and already I could feel the cracks starting to show. Vanessa stuck to Drew like glue, but her eyes kept darting around the room, like she was searching for exits. Drew, meanwhile, couldn't stop bragging. About his new business, still vague on details, about the amazing life he and Vanessa were building, about how family loyalty was so important. Loyalty, he kept repeating, clapping me on the back so hard my teeth rattled. I caught Mom shooting Dad nervous glances across the room. Something was wrong. Really wrong. Half an hour before dinner, Mom pulled me aside into the laundry room. "Listen," she said, whispering urgently. "You need to be patient with your brother." "Mom," I said, "what the hell is going on?" She hesitated, chewing her lip. "Just, don't make a scene. Okay? It's Thanksgiving." I wanted to press her, but Dad poked his head in. "Dinner's ready." We gathered around the table. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce from a can, because some traditions never die. Vanessa sat at Drew's right side, clutching his hand so tight her knuckles turned white. About halfway through the meal, Drew stood up, tapping his wine glass with a fork. "Got an announcement," he said, smiling so wide it looked painful. "Vanessa and I, we need a little help from family." Mom's fork clattered against her plate. "We're starting a new business," Drew continued, "and we need investors." And there it was. The real reason for the big Thanksgiving reunion. "We're asking everyone for a small contribution," he said, shooting a pointed look at me. "You know, to show your loyalty. Family first, right?" I just stared at him, trying to process. Vanessa's smile looked even faker now, like she was 2 seconds from bolting out the door. Then Drew dropped the real bomb. "The buy-in is $25,000 each," he said, raising his glass. "To family." The room went dead silent. And in that silence, I realized this wasn't about Thanksgiving. It wasn't about family. It was a setup. And I was the mark. I didn't respond. Not at first. I just looked around the table, gauging reactions. Dad looked like he might vomit. Mom was frozen, fork in midair. And Vanessa, well, Vanessa looked like she was waiting for a trapdoor to open and swallow her whole. Drew, I said slowly, are you seriously asking for 25 grand over dinner? It's an investment, he said, still grinning. You'd be part of the company. Equity and everything. What company? I asked. He hesitated. Just a flicker, but I saw it. It's still in the early stages. Translation, it didn't exist. Or worse, it did, and it was a dumpster fire. I'm gonna be honest with you, I said, setting my napkin down. This feels like a shakedown. Mom gasped. Vanessa flinched. Drew's grin faded by a millimeter. Come on, he said. It's not like you can't afford it. Oh. That's what this was. He thought I'd made it. I had a decent job, sure, and yeah, I'd done okay with some crypto investments a few years back. But to him? That made me the golden goose. I looked at Vanessa. She was staring at her plate like it held the answers to the universe. You in on this too? I asked her. She looked up, eyes wide. Excuse me? Are you part of this little scheme? Drew slammed his palm on the table. Don't talk to her like that. Why not? I snapped. You dragged us all here to bankroll your fantasy startup. You blindsided us during dinner. And now you want us to treat this like a bonding moment? Dad finally spoke. Son, maybe this isn't the best time. No, let's do it, I said. Let's rip it wide open. Vanessa stood suddenly. Excuse me, she said, barely holding it together. She walked briskly down the hall. Drew made a move to follow her, but I held up a hand. Let her go. Let's talk about you. He glared at me. You've always been jealous. That made me laugh. Out loud. Jealous of you? Are you high? You think you're better than everyone because you didn't screw up, he said, voice rising. But you're just a coward. You never take risks. No, I said, standing. I just don't gamble with other people's money and call it loyalty. There it was again, that flicker of panic behind his eyes. What's the business, Drew? I said, voice cold. What exactly do you do? He opened his mouth. Closed it. And then, Vanessa's voice came from the hallway. You didn't tell them? She was back. Eyes blazing. Voice shaking. You told me they knew, she said, stepping into the room. You said your family was already invested. Silence. She looked at all of us, face flushing. He said you all put in money already. That this was just formalizing it. Mom's face went sheet white. Dad dropped his fork. Vanessa looked at Drew. You lied to me? He opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. And that's when it hit me. Hard. Drew had taken money. Already. From someone. And he used our names. Who did you tell you had our backing? I asked quietly. Vanessa didn't look away. His business partner. Or whatever the guy is. Some slick guy in a suit. I met him once. He said Drew vouched for all of you. Said you were all on board. The room felt like it tilted. Mom whispered, oh my God. And Drew? Drew sat down. Hard. Head in his hands. Because the scam wasn't just a setup. It was already in motion. The room was still spinning when I stepped outside. I needed air, space, something that didn't smell like burnt turkey and bad decisions. The cold November air bit at my face, grounding me, clearing the fog just enough to make one thing excruciatingly clear: Drew had roped someone into this. And he had used our names to do it. I walked around the block twice before going back inside. Vanessa was sitting alone on the couch, staring into nothing, her wine glass untouched. Drew had disappeared somewhere into the house, probably hiding. Where's this business partner? I asked. She looked up, startled. He's in town. We were supposed to meet him tomorrow. Drew said it'd be a good time to introduce him to the family. Perfect. Just perfect. What's his name? She hesitated. I only know his first name. Camden. Of course it was Camden. Probably spelled with a Y just to be extra punchable. I went to find Drew, who was sulking in the basement, nursing a beer and watching reruns of some show he probably didn't even like. Tomorrow, I said. You're calling this Camden guy. We're getting to the bottom of it. He didn't look at me. He already wired the first payment. He thinks you all signed on. I felt my stomach lurch. How much did you say I was putting in? He still wouldn't look at me. 50 grand. 50? That got Mom and Dad running downstairs. You told someone I was investing $50,000 in a fake company? It's not fake, Drew snapped, standing suddenly. It's just, still coming together. No, I said. What's coming together is your prison sentence if this goes any further. Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs. He said we'd all be rich by spring. He made it sound so real. He always does, I muttered. The next morning, we met Camden. At a local diner, of all places. He strolled in like he owned the place. Slick gray suit, bleached smile, and that vibe, you know the one, like he's always selling you something even when he's just saying hello. Camden, he said, shaking my hand like we were old pals. You must be the genius brother. Drew's told me all about you. Oh, I'm sure he has, I said, smiling tightly. We sat. Vanessa came too. Drew looked like he hadn't slept. So, I said. Let's hear it. The pitch. I want to know what I'm apparently investing 50 grand into. Camden launched into it. Some crypto mining casino metaverse nonsense that sounded like he'd strung together every buzzword from the last 5 years. Drew nodded along enthusiastically. Vanessa looked like she might puke. Have you filed an LLC? I asked. Do you have any paperwork? Permits? Business plan? Camden paused. We're more in the visionary stage. I said. You do realize impersonating investors and fabricating capital support can be considered fraud, right? That wiped the grin off his face. What's your angle? I asked. You in this with Drew, or is he just another pawn? Camden looked from me to Drew. You didn't tell him? Tell me what? Drew buried his face in his hands. Tell me what? Camden stood. I think this conversation's over. Vanessa grabbed his wrist. No. You tell us. Now. Camden sighed, then dropped the bomb. He already gave me $75,000. It wasn't his. Said he'd make it right after this weekend. My knees almost gave out. I looked at Drew. Where did you get that money? And just like that, Mom screamed from behind us. My retirement fund. Everything stopped. Even the background noise of the diner, the clinking plates, the murmured conversations, it all seemed to fade away in the vacuum left by my mom's voice. My retirement fund. Camden had the nerve to look confused. Wait, that money? Yes, that money. I snapped, shooting to my feet. Are you telling me Drew took our mom's retirement savings, lied to you, forged our names, and handed over 75 grand of her money to this hallucination of a company? Drew looked like a deer in headlights. Vanessa looked ready to faint. My mom, my sweet, passive, never rock the boat mother, was shaking. Eyes glassy. Hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. I trusted you, she said to Drew, her voice barely above a whisper. Mom, I was going to pay it back, Drew said quickly, desperately. I just needed a jumpstart, that's all. Once the company launched. There is no company, I cut in. There never was a company. Camden raised a hand. Hold on. I didn't know the money was stolen. He told me it was family-backed. Yeah? I shot back. And you just took 75 grand from a guy with no proof of income or ownership of anything other than poor judgment and a criminal record? That got Camden to shut up. He adjusted his tie, looked away. Vanessa stood slowly, tears welling in her eyes. We're done, she said to Drew. I knew something felt off, but this? Vanessa, wait, Drew pleaded. I did this for us. No, she said, grabbing her purse. You did this for you. You dragged me into it so you'd look more legitimate. You used everyone. And with that, she walked out. Drew just stood there, frozen, watching the door swing shut behind her. The rest of us filed out in silence. Dad pulled Mom into the car. I lagged behind, watching Camden disappear down the street like the cockroach he was. Back home, it got even worse. Mom sat on the couch, staring at the floor. Dad paced. I confronted Drew in the garage. You've crossed the line before, I said. But this? This is nuclear. I'll fix it, he mumbled. I'll get a loan, or. You're not fixing anything. You're turning yourself in. Or I will. He looked up at me, stunned. You wouldn't. Try me, I said. You stole from Mom. You lied to all of us. And you pulled a stranger into it who could sue this family into the ground. I can't go to jail, he whispered. Then maybe you should have thought about that before gambling with someone else's life savings. That night, we had a family meeting. Mom, red-eyed. Dad, silent. Drew, curled in on himself. And me, delivering ultimatums. You sign over power of attorney to Dad. Today. You make a full confession. No more secrets. You stop everything. Or I go to the cops. He agreed. He cried. He begged. But he signed. The fallout came quick. Camden ghosted. Vanessa blocked Drew on everything. Mom moved her money to a protected trust. Drew? He got a part-time job at a car wash. The wedding was cancelled. The startup account was closed. Thanksgiving was officially ruined. But somehow, we were all still standing. The next few weeks were brutal. Word about Drew spread like wildfire among family and friends. Thanksgiving had ended with barely a goodbye, and Christmas invitations got lost in the mail. Drew moved back into my parents' basement. The house that used to be filled with laughter and passive-aggressive jabs was now silent, a tomb filled with the echoes of betrayal. Mom barely spoke to him unless necessary. Dad only addressed him with short, clipped sentences. The shame hung over the house like a storm cloud that refused to move. I stayed away. I'd done what I could. Until one Saturday afternoon, about a month after the disaster, Drew showed up at my apartment. He looked different. Gaunt. Hollow-eyed. Like a man who had aged a decade overnight. Hey, he said, voice rough. I didn't invite him in. I just leaned against the doorframe. What do you want? He looked down at his shoes, scuffing the sidewalk with the toe of his worn-out sneaker. He started, then stopped. Took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they made anything better, they didn't, but because for the first time in my life, I saw Drew without the bravado, without the bullshit. Just a broken man who had finally run out of bridges to burn. You hurt a lot of people, I said quietly. Mom. Dad. Me. I know, he said, voice cracking. And I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm trying to fix things. I crossed my arms. How? He swallowed hard. I'm working 2 jobs. Car wash during the day. Security guard at night. I'm paying Mom back. Every cent. Even if it takes me years. A beat of silence stretched between us. Good, I said finally. You should. He nodded, blinking rapidly. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I needed you to know. I nodded once, slowly. Thanks for telling me, I said. Now go make it right. He gave a ghost of a smile, then turned and walked away. I watched him go, feeling, for the first time, like maybe, just maybe, there was a sliver of hope buried somewhere under the wreckage. Thanksgiving was a disaster. Christmas was cold. But by the next year, things started to shift. Slowly. Painfully. Mom smiled a little more. Dad stopped pacing. Drew stayed in the basement, grinding away at his miserable jobs. But he stayed out of trouble. And me? I built a new tradition. Every Thanksgiving after that, I hosted a Friendsgiving. Just me, my real family, the people who showed up without asking for anything. We cooked, we laughed, we ate too much pie. And for the first time in a long time, I was thankful. Not for the mess Drew left behind, but for the freedom that came after it.